When your own family hands you an itemized bill for the cost of raising you, you have two choices. Pay the $73,000 they claim you owe, or call an accountant. She chose the accountant. Within 24 hours, a counter invoice landed on their kitchen table. $247,000 for unpaid child labor, $89,000 for emotional damages, and a lien on the family property they never saw coming. Here is exactly how she flipped the bill. Her name is Mia Kelleher. She is 28 years old, and she just received the most outrageous document of her life. A line item bill from her own parents for the cost of raising her, $73,000. Every diaper, every school lunch, every piano lesson she never asked for itemized, totaled, and due. But Mia did not flinch. She did not pay. Instead, she called an accountant who wrote something back that flipped the entire script. Now her parents are staring down a number they cannot ignore, and so is the rest of the internet. The question everyone is asking: what happens when a child bills her parents for childhood itself? The answer starts 2 years before that envelope ever arrived. 2 years before the bill arrived, Mia Kelleher was not thinking about money. She was thinking about escape. She had just turned 26, living in a one-bedroom apartment in Portland, working as a freelance graphic designer. Enough to cover rent, student loans, and the occasional sushi dinner. Not enough to feel safe. But safe was never the point. Safe was something she learned to fake around her parents. Robert and Linda Kelleher raised Mia in a 3-bedroom colonial outside Cleveland. Her father managed a hardware store for 30 years. Her mother worked part-time at a dental office. On paper, they were solid middle class. In practice, every dollar had a string attached. Piano lessons. You remember this when you're successful. New winter coat. We expect you to take care of it. By the time Mia turned 18, the strings had become ropes. She moved out at 19 with a partial scholarship to a state school and a stack of loans her parents refused to co-sign. You want independence, Linda said, you pay for it. So Mia did. She worked 2 jobs through college, graduated in 4 years with $42,000 in debt, and built a life her parents had never helped her build. They noticed. They resented it. The first sign of trouble came when Robert retired early. The hardware store closed, his pension fell short, and suddenly the Kellehers were looking at their daughter with new eyes. She was doing well. She had a savings account. She wasn't struggling. They started asking for help. Could she cover a car repair? $800. Could she lend them $3,000 for a roof patch? Mia said yes both times. Then they asked for $15,000 to consolidate credit card debt. She said no. That no changed everything. Calls got colder. Texts turned passive-aggressive. You don't understand what we sacrificed for you. We gave you everything. Mia heard those words and felt something shift inside her. She started keeping records. Every request. Every refused favor. Every time her mother mentioned the cost of raising a child like it was a receipt waiting to be presented. And then, 2 years after that first no, the receipt arrived. A thick envelope with no return address hand-delivered to her mailbox. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Itemized. Dated. Total due, $73,412. For groceries, clothing, medical copays, extracurricular fees, a portion of the mortgage, and a line item labeled General Upbringing Expenses 1996-2015. Below the total, in her mother's handwriting, payment expected within 30 days. No further contact until resolved. Mia read it 3 times. The first time she laughed. The second time she felt cold. The third time she opened her laptop and searched for a forensic accountant. She did not call her parents. She did not cry. She found a woman named Teresa Okonkwo, a certified public accountant who specialized in family financial disputes. Teresa had handled cases involving divorces, business partnerships, and one particularly vicious inheritance battle. She had never handled a parent billing a child for childhood, but she listened. And when Mia finished explaining, Teresa said 4 words that changed everything. I have a counter-proposal. Teresa Okonkwo did not draft a polite letter. She drafted a legal time bomb. For 3 weeks, Mia barely slept. Teresa worked from her office in downtown Portland, a cluttered desk covered in spreadsheets, legal pads, and a copy of the original bill her mother had sent. The first thing Teresa did was break down the parents' $73,000 claim. She ran the math against USDA child-rearing cost data. For a middle-income family in Ohio, The average cost to raise a child from birth to 18 was $284,000. But that included housing, transportation, healthcare, education, all normal expenses. Robert and Linda had billed Mia for less than a third of that. They had cherry-picked the costs that fit their narrative. Teresa called Mia. This is not about what they actually spent. This is about what they want you to believe you owe. Then Teresa flipped the lens. She started a new spreadsheet. Column 1, every chore Mia had done from age 8 to 18. Dishes, laundry, yard work, babysitting her younger brother without pay. Column 2, the minimum wage for those years in Ohio. $7.15 in 2011, $8.15 by 2015. Column 3, the estimated hours. Teresa was conservative. 3 hours a week for basic chores, plus 10 hours a week for regular sibling care from ages 12 to 16. By age 14, Mia was cooking dinner twice a week. By 16, she was handling all household cleaning during her mother's recovery from surgery. The total hit $89,000, before overtime, before emotional damages. Mia stared at the number. I did not know I was working. That is the whole point, Teresa said. They did not tell you it was labor because they wanted it to feel like love. That is how the system works. But the law does not care about feelings. The law cares about exchange of value. Then Teresa opened a second file, emotional damages. She cited case law from the Ninth Circuit, where courts had awarded $40,000 per employee for emotional distress in retaliation claims. She adjusted for context. A minor child in a position of dependency, subject to guilt and manipulation over money. She added $49,000. Mia's total counter-invoice came to $138,000. With interest backdated to Mia's 18th birthday, it reached $162,400. But Teresa did not stop there. This could vanish in court, she said. You need leverage that sticks, a lien. Mia did not own a house. Her parents did. 3-bedroom colonial, market value $240,000, with a mortgage of $110,000. Teresa filed a notice of lien against the property at the county recorder's office. The legal basis: unjust enrichment and conversion of labor. In Ohio, a person who provides services under the reasonable expectation of payment can file a mechanic's lien on real property if the property owner directly benefited from those services. The Kelleher's had directly benefited. Mia's unpaid labor had reduced their household expenses for a decade. The lien was recorded, a public document. Anyone pulling the title on that house would see it. Mia printed the counter-invoice on heavy paper, signed it, and drove to her parents' house. She did not call ahead. She walked up the front steps, rang the bell, and handed the envelope to her father. Her mother appeared behind him in the hallway. Robert opened the envelope. Linda read over his shoulder. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Linda said, "You are not serious." Mia said, "You have 30 days to respond." Then she turned around and walked to her car. That night, her phone erupted. Texts from her brother. Missed calls from her aunt, a voicemail from her father. "You have made a terrible mistake, Mia. We raised you. We fed you. This is how you repay us." The next morning, a letter arrived at her apartment from a lawyer named Gerald Parsons, representing Robert and Linda Kelleher. Demand: remove the lien within 5 days or face legal action for slander of title. Mia forwarded the letter to Teresa. Teresa responded within an hour. Slander of title requires malice and falsehood. Our lien is based on documented labor and a good faith legal argument. Let them try. We will countersue for the full amount plus legal fees. Mia felt something unfamiliar. It was not anger. It was the quiet thrill of being believed. But the parents had more ammunition than she expected. That weekend, Linda called Mia and played a new card. "We have receipts. We have your medical bills from when you broke your arm at age 12. We have the orthodontist payments. We have the cost of your wedding dress. You borrowed it, but we paid for alterations. You think we did not keep records?" Mia had not borrowed a wedding dress. She had never been married. The medical bills had been covered by insurance. The orthodontist payments were from before her father's insurance changed. Linda was fabricating. Mia hung up and called Teresa. "They are lying." Teresa said, "Good. Let them put those lies in writing. Discovery will expose them." The case was escalating into something neither side could control. The lien was public. A local news blogger picked up the story. Parents bill daughter for childhood, daughter files six-figure lien. The comments exploded. Thousands of opinions. Some called Mia a sociopath. Others called her a hero. The Kellehers gave an interview to a local TV station. Robert said, "We just wanted her to understand the value of what we gave her." The interviewer asked, "Do you still want her to pay it?" Robert paused. "We want what is fair." Inside that pause, Mia saw the crack. Because if they wanted fair, they would have to answer for the $17,000 they had secretly withdrawn from her college savings account when she was 15. The account was in her name, set up by her grandmother. Her parents were listed as custodians. The money was supposed to be for tuition. Instead, they had used it to pay off credit card debt. Mia had discovered the empty account when she was 18, trying to pay her first semester. She had never confronted them. She had been too afraid to break the silence. Now the silence was already broken. She sent Teresa a copy of the old bank statement. Teresa emailed back one word: jackpot. They had their counterclaim: breach of fiduciary duty. A custodian who misappropriates a minor's funds can be held liable for triple damages. Suddenly, the $73,000 bill looked like a very bad idea, and the Kellehers were about to learn that their daughter had only started digging. The next document Mia found was a letter from her grandmother, written 10 years ago, addressed to Mia but never sent. It had been tucked inside an old cookbook that Linda had given Mia when she moved out. Inside, her grandmother's handwriting: "I am setting aside $30,000 for your future. Your parents do not know. Keep this safe. They have a way of spending money that is not theirs." Mia had never seen the money. She never knew about the letter. She called her grandmother, who was still alive but frail, living in a nursing home outside Toledo. "Grandma, did you send me money?" Her grandmother was quiet. "Yes, sweetheart. I gave it to your mother to deposit into your account." "Did she?" Mia closed her eyes. No, she did not. That revelation reframed everything. This was not a dispute about chores and family loyalty. This was a pattern. Her parents had been diverting resources meant for her for years. The bill they sent was not an attempt at fairness. It was a smoke screen. If Mia paid them, that $30,000 would be gone forever, and she would have validated their entire system. She decided to go public. She posted the full story with redacted documents on a Substack. Within 48 hours, it had 500,000 views. The comments were a war zone: parents defending parents, children defending children. But the documents were real, and the lien was public, and the bank statements did not lie. The Kellehers' lawyer, Gerald Parsons, demanded the post be taken down. Teresa sent a single-line response: "Motion to compel discovery is already filed. You will have your day in court, Gerald. Bring receipts." That is where the fight stood when something completely unexpected happened. Mia's younger brother, Kevin, called her. He was 24, living in Columbus, still on good terms with their parents. He had never taken sides. Mia braced for an argument. Instead, Kevin said, "I found something. They did the same thing to me, only I did not get a bill. I got an invoice for my college graduation party, $12,000. I have been paying them for 2 years." Mia sat in silence. She was not alone, and the house of cards was beginning to collapse from the inside. Kevin's call opened a door Mia had not known was locked. Behind it, she found a ledger. Kevin had kept records. Not because he planned a confrontation, but because he had been trained by the same parents to document everything. He sent Mia a folder of screenshots: bank transfers, Venmo requests, text messages. Over 4 years, their parents had billed Kevin for 72 separate line items after he turned 18. A phone plan he never used. Car insurance he paid himself, but they double billed. A storage unit they rented in his name. The total came to $29,000. Kevin had been paying because he thought he owed it. Mia forwarded the entire folder to Teresa with a one-line message: "They ran the same play on both of us." Teresa replied within an hour: "This is bigger than a family dispute. This is a pattern that may constitute fraud under Ohio Revised Code 2913.02. If they knowingly misrepresented debts to collect money, that is theft by deception. And Kevin is a second victim. That matters in court. It shows intent, not mistake." Mia called Kevin. "We need to combine our claims. We need to file together." Kevin hesitated. "They are still our parents. They raised us." Mia said they raised us to pay them. That is not the same thing. Kevin agreed the next morning. He signed a joint affidavit detailing every payment he had made since turning 18. Teresa filed an amended complaint with the county court, adding Kevin as a plaintiff. The new total demanded $293,000, including the misappropriated grandmother money, the unpaid labor, the fabricated graduation party invoice, and the fraudulent storage charges. The Kelleher's lawyer, Gerald Parsons, responded with a motion to dismiss. He argued that Mia and Kevin had both voluntarily made payments and performed chores without coercion. The motion stated that parents are entitled to expect reasonable contributions from adult children and that childhood services cannot be retroactively classified as wage labor. It was a strong argument. In Ohio, there is no law requiring parents to pay children for household chores. And there is no statute that defines childhood as employment. But Teresa had anticipated this. She filed a cross motion citing two specific precedents. First, in Ray Estate of Perry, where an Ohio appeals court ruled that a child's services could be valued when the parent had promised payment, and the child relied on that promise to their detriment. Second, a 2019 case from Cuyahoga County, where a court held that parents who systematically diverted a child's inheritance violated fiduciary duty, even without a formal trust agreement. The Kellehers had promised their children that the college savings account would be used for college. They had promised the same about the grandmother's $30,000. Those were not vague aspirations. Those were representations that created obligations. The judge denied the motion to dismiss. The case would proceed to discovery. That meant depositions. The first deposition was Robert Kelleher. He sat at a conference table in Gerald Parsons' office, wearing a jacket he had not worn in years. Teresa Okonkwo asked the questions. Did you tell your daughter that her college savings account contained money for her education? Yes. Did you withdraw funds from that account before she turned 18? Yes. For what purpose? We had bills. Did you inform her of the withdrawal? No. Did you replace the funds? No. Did you tell your daughter that her grandmother had sent $30,000 for her future? Robert paused. I do not recall. Teresa slid a printed email across the table. The email, dated 6 months after the grandmother sent the money, showed Robert writing to Linda, 30 from your mother, that covers the credit card. The room was silent. Robert did not look at the paper. Linda's deposition was worse. She admitted to fabricating the graduation party invoice for Kevin. She said she considered it a legitimate expense because he had attended the party. The interviewer from the news station had asked if she wanted what was fair. Now, under oath, she defined fair as covering what parents spent, even if they had already been repaid. She said the word fair 8 times in 40 minutes. Each time, the definition shifted. Meanwhile, the public story exploded. The Substack post crossed 1 million views. National media picked it up. A segment on a major network featured a debate between a family therapist and a legal analyst. The therapist argued that this was a breakdown of trust that no court could repair. The legal analyst pointed out that the Kellehers had committed fraud. The audience was split, but something else was happening beneath the surface. Other people were coming forward. Mia's inbox flooded. Over 600 emails from adult children describing similar experiences. Parents who demanded rent at age 16. Parents who charged interest on childhood medical bills. Parents who claimed ownership of their children's tax refunds. One woman wrote that her mother had invoiced her for the cost of labor and delivery, itemized by hour. Another man said his father had billed him for the cost of the car he was never allowed to drive. Teresa created a separate intake spreadsheet. She found patterns. Nearly all the parents who billed their adult children had one thing in common. They had experienced a financial shock shortly before sending the invoice. Job loss, medical bills, divorce. The Kellehers fit the profile perfectly. Robert's store had closed 14 months before he sent the $73,000 bill. He had been hiding credit card debt from Linda for 2 years. The invoice was not about the cost of raising Mia. It was about plugging a hole. But the Kellehers had a final move, one that almost worked. Gerald Parsons filed a countersuit for defamation, claiming Mia's Substack post had cost Robert a job offer and caused Linda emotional distress. They demanded the post be taken down and sought $100,000 in damages. Teresa called Mia. This is a Hail Mary. They are trying to scare you into silence. If we fight it, we can win, but it will take months and cost thousands. Alternatively, we offer to drop our claims in exchange for them dropping theirs. Mutual walk away. Mia thought about the cabin her grandmother had wanted her to have, the lien on her parents' house, the money that was never hers but should have been. She thought about Kevin, still paying off the graduation party invoice she now knew was fake. She thought about the 600 emails waiting in her inbox from people who had never had a Teresa. She told Teresa, "No, we see this through, every document, every deposition, every courtroom if we have to." That decision triggered something unexpected. 2 days later, the county prosecutor's office contacted Teresa. They had been monitoring the case. They wanted to know if Mia and Kevin would cooperate in a criminal investigation into Robert and Linda Kelleher for theft by deception. The case had just crossed a threshold no one saw coming. It was no longer a civil dispute between a daughter and her parents. It was now a matter of criminal law, and the state was ready to take the lead. The state did not move fast. It moved like winter ice, slow, deliberate, and unstoppable once it cracked. The county prosecutor's office spent 3 weeks reviewing the evidence that Mia and Kevin had already compiled. The bank statements, the grandmother's letter, the fabricated invoices, the depositions where Linda had contradicted herself 12 times in 40 minutes. On a Thursday morning in late October, a grand jury indicted Robert and Linda Kelleher on 3 counts of theft by deception and 1 count of tampering with records. The news hit the local paper before the Kellehers were even served. Mia heard about it from a reporter who called her apartment at 6 a.m. How does it feel knowing your parents may go to prison? Mia hung up without answering. She did not know how she felt. She called Kevin. They sat on the phone in silence for a full minute before Kevin said, "I still love them." Mia said, "Me too." And that is the worst part. The arraignment was held in early November. Robert and Linda stood before a judge in matching dark suits, looking smaller than Mia remembered. Gerald Parsons argued that the charges were overreach, a family dispute blown into a criminal matter by social media pressure. The judge set bail at $50,000 each. Robert posted his with money borrowed from his brother. Linda sat in the courtroom with her hands folded, never once looking at her children. Discovery moved quickly. The prosecution had a stronger case than anyone expected. The grandmother's letter, authenticated by handwriting analysis, proved that the $30,000 had been sent with explicit instructions for Mia's education. The bank records showed the money was deposited into a joint account Robert and Linda controlled, then withdrawn in cash within 72 hours. No trace of where it went. The fabricated graduation party invoice had a date stamp that Linda had tried to alter with whiteout. The forensic lab lifted the original date underneath. Kevin's payments had continued for 18 months after the party he allegedly owed for. The grand jury had also found evidence that the Kellehers had used a similar scheme on Kevin's friend, who had lent them $5,000 and never been repaid. That friend testified under immunity. The pattern was clear. This was not a one-time mistake. This was how they operated. Meanwhile, the civil case moved towards settlement. Teresa Okonkwo and Gerald Parsons met in a conference room with a mediator. Mia and Kevin sat on one side. Robert and Linda sat on the other, separated by a table and years of silence. The mediator, a retired judge named Evelyn Cross, opened with a simple statement. This case is about money, but money is not the problem. The problem is trust, and trust cannot be awarded in a judgment. Mia spoke first. She said, "I want the $30,000 my grandmother left me. I want Kevin's debts erased. I want the lien on their house to remain for 5 years, not as punishment, but as proof that they cannot sell that property without acknowledging what they did. And I want a written apology, not for the public, for me." Linda's jaw tightened. Robert stared at the table. Gerald Parsons leaned in and whispered something to them. Finally, Robert nodded. He wrote a statement on a legal pad, pushed it across the table. Mia read it. It said, "We are sorry for the pain we caused." That was all. No mention of the money, no recognition of the lies. Mia slid it back. That is not enough. She stood up. "We go to trial." The trial was scheduled for January. But 2 weeks before the date, the prosecutor called Teresa with an offer. The state was willing to drop the criminal charges to a misdemeanor if the Kellehers agreed to full restitution, community service, and a no-contact order for 5 years. Robert and Linda would avoid prison. Mia and Kevin would get their money back. The prosecutor said, "It is your call. We will support either decision." Mia and Kevin debated for days. They debated at Kevin's apartment, over coffee, in text threads that stretched past midnight. Kevin said, "If they go to prison, we lose them forever." Mia said, "We already lost them. They lost us the day they sent that bill." But in the end, they agreed to the plea. Not because they forgave, but because the fight had already cost them something worse than money. It had cost them the idea that family would always protect you, and no verdict could give that back. Robert and Linda stood before the same judge in early December and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of attempted theft by deception, reduced from felonies to misdemeanors. The judge ordered full restitution, $30,000 to Mia, $12,000 to Kevin, plus court costs. They were sentenced to 200 hours of community service each and a 5-year no-contact order. They could not call, text, or email their children. They could not attend family gatherings if Mia or Kevin were present. The lien remained on the house for 3 years as collateral. Outside the courthouse, a crowd of reporters waited. Mia and Kevin walked past them without stopping. They got into a borrowed car and drove to a coffee shop on the outskirts of town. They sat in a booth by the window and ordered pancakes and hash browns. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Kevin said, "What do we do now?" Mia looked out the window. "We figure out who we are without them." That spring, something unexpected happened. The 600 emails Mia had received, the ones from adult children describing similar stories, had not stopped. A lawyer from California reached out. She wanted to create a nonprofit that helped adult children negotiate or fight back against parental financial abuse. She asked if Mia would be a founding board member. Mia said yes. The nonprofit launched in April. It was called the Ledger Project. It provided free forensic accounting consultations, legal referrals, and a template for a counter-invoice that anyone could adapt. Within 3 months, the Ledger Project had processed over 2,000 intake forms. The most common request was not for money. It was for acknowledgement. Parents who sent bills rarely admitted wrongdoing. The children wanted someone to say what happened to them was real. Mia found the letter from her grandmother again, the one she had retrieved from the old cookbook. She framed it and hung it above her desk. The last line read, "Keep this safe. They have a way of spending money that is not theirs." Mia looked at those words every morning. They reminded her that some debts are not financial. They are promises that were meant to be kept. The surprising detail came late that summer. Mia received a certified letter from a law firm in Toledo. Her grandmother had died 2 months earlier, quietly, at the age of 92. The letter contained a second envelope, marked with Mia's name. Inside, there was a handwritten note and a cashier's check for $47,000. The note read, "I knew your mother would take the first 30. This is the rest. I have been saving it since you were 10. I hoped you would never need it. But I think you will know what to do." Mia sat on her apartment floor and cried. She put most of the money into a trust for Kevin's future children. The rest she used to buy the cabin she had always dreamed of, not because she needed a cabin, but because her grandmother had taught her that some things are worth keeping even if they cost nothing. As the summer ended, Mia drove to the closing on a small piece of land near a lake in northern Michigan. No family property, no inherited deeds, just a plot of earth she chose for herself. She stood at the edge of the water and felt the weight of the past begin to settle. She had not won a battle against her parents. She had survived a war that should never have started. And she had found a way to carry the love without the debt. That is where the story arrives at its quiet center. The resolution is not a courtroom victory. It is a woman who learned that the invoice for childhood cannot be itemized because childhood is not a transaction. It is a gift that either is given freely or becomes poison. Mia chose to give her gift freely, and that choice is what finally let her walk away. Mia's story is not about a bill. It is about a question most of us never think to ask. What do we owe the people who raised us? The answer changes depending on who is holding the calculator. Her parents saw a balance due for groceries and piano lessons. They saw a child who owed them for the life they gave her. But Mia saw something different. She saw years of unpaid labor, stolen inheritance, and a love that had been weaponized into leverage. She saw that the people who claimed to have given her everything had actually taken something they had no right to take. And she proved it not with anger, but with receipts. The ripple effect of this case rippled far beyond one family. The Ledger Project now fields calls from every state in the country. They have helped over 4,000 adult children draft counter-invoices of their own. Some of those cases ended in court. Some ended in silence. Some ended with a parent finally saying the words they had never said before, "I was wrong." But most ended the same way Mia's did. With a child walking away, not because they won, but because they finally understood that some debts cannot be collected and some bonds cannot be forced. Here is the lingering question. What happens to a family after the invoice is paid? Robert and Linda completed their community service. The no-contact order expired after 5 years. Mia and Kevin chose not to renew it. On a quiet Sunday in March, Mia drove to her parents' house for the first time in half a decade. She sat on the same porch where she had handed them the counter-invoice. Her mother brought out iced tea. Her father sat in the same chair he had always sat in. For 2 hours, they talked about the weather, about Kevin's new job, about nothing at all. They did not apologize. They did not explain. But they also did not ask for money. Sometimes, that is the closest thing to peace a person can get. Mia still lives near the lake in Michigan. She works as a consultant for the Ledger Project. She has not blocked her parents' number. She calls them on birthdays. She has not forgotten what they did, but she has stopped carrying it the way she used to. She says the hardest part was not the fight. It was learning that you can love someone and still hold them accountable, that you can forgive without forgetting, and that the only bill that truly matters is the one you owe to yourself. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you think about a relationship in your own life that feels unbalanced, or a promise that was broken, or a debt that was never really financial at all, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Drop a comment with your take. What would you have done in Mia's place? And if you want more stories like this one, hit that subscribe button. The next documentary is already in the works. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one.